I still haven't talked once, said Fenrir, sitting on the bed. No one? No one at all? The Duchess asked. No, no one. Well, if you climb on the table again, you will drink plain water instead of soup. And another thing. This is my bed. I just let you sleep on it for a while because you were sick. If you have recovered, go to the room that has been prepared for you. But instead of going obediently, he turned away from her and covered himself with a blanket. What a lousy bastard. I certainly expected this, but he doesn't listen to me at all. Why don't we just move him? Well, he just woke up. Let him sleep here tonight. And Rosalyn lay down beside him. She began to have strange thoughts. I mean, he's 20 years old. Maybe. No, I shouldn't think about it. I won't get anything out of my thinking anyway. And so began Fenrir's life at the Duchess estate. As a result, they settled on the name Fiddler. Perhaps it was the influence of the name, but now the servants began to treat him as a member of the family. Though not everyone was of that opinion, the reason was obvious. The man who disliked the boys was her nephew. They couldn't express their disdain openly, but Fenrir was very sensitive to the hostility of others. And one day, when the boy climbed on the closet again, the Duchess asked him, "By the way, Fenrir, why did you run away?" The boy immediately sensed something wrong. When he saw the shoes in her hands, "I just want you to start wearing shoes." What's strange about wearing shoes? On the contrary, it's strange not to wear them. But Fenrir was a beast man and never wore shoes. So you've been living wrong your whole life. Now it's time you started wearing them. You go barefoot for 5 minutes and your feet go black. Do you really intend to walk on your son all 365 days a year? Besides, it's dangerous. They are not very dirty. Fenrir said indignantly, staring at his bossy leg. Of course not. You just took a bath. Rosalyn said with an indignant face. You've done God knows what. But if you go barefoot, your feet will be filthy. Like all beastmen, Fenrir didn't care if his feet got dirty. Now you have to think about it. I'll try to put it on. But Fenrir still looked at the shoes with some apprehension. Slaves can't wear shoes. Sadly, the boy said. You are not a slave, Rosalyn told him. I burned your papers. I don't need them. And the Duchess began carefully putting on the boy's shoes and said, if you want to live here, you must wear shoes. Since the boy was unaccustomed, but he wanted to live in the castle, and the Duchess, he with a sad face, agreed. From then on, the boy did not make any trouble in the castle. He soon became more obedient. He didn't run away like he used to, and he didn't show hostility when he was in the same room with people. It had been a long time since she had lived with anyone together, and she enjoyed spending time with the boy. Still, there were those in the mansion who shunned Fenrir. They said he seemed quite bright, so he knew perfectly well who to keep close to. But even the Duchess could not understand what the boy was thinking. Sitter was constantly looking out the window and spending his time like that, doing nothing. Aren't you bored just sitting there? You can go outside and play if you want. If you like. Can I? The boy asked with a surprised face. I don't think you understand. You're not imprisoned here, you just live here. It's up to you to come out or not. The Duchess answered him, reading a book. Fiddler usually did as he was told, if necessary. But if you ask him to make a choice, confusion immediately showed on his face. So in the end, he does nothing, even after a while. Fenrir, if you have no business, follow me. I'll show you the manor. The boy happily ran after the Duchess to explore the grounds of the manor. Walking in the garden, the boy was running and jumping, which alarmed the Duchess a little. You could fall like that, she said to the boy. I guess you think I'm some kind of little boy. The boy answered, peeking out from behind the bushes. From then on, under the pretext of walking, the Duchess began to take Fenrir with her everywhere. At first he was kind of lost, but he quickly got used to it and began to respond to whatever was interesting to him. He wasn't particularly interested in the brightly decorated rooms, but he loved the orangery and garden. He liked trees with broad trunks more than small flowers, and the woods or fields where many flowers and grasses grew attracted him more than lonely blossoms. That is not to say that Finnish did nothing here at all. He could do nothing, for he did not know exactly what he could and could not do. One day Miss Eleanor Greenwood came over to check on the boy's condition. But since the boy didn't know her, he started growling at her and almost attacked her to scratch her. "I just want to check your condition. I'm not going to hurt you." By the way, his recovery is slower than I thought it would be. I didn't think it would take a whole week. Still, you need to be treated. But even those words didn't convince the boy, and I do not trust doctors, shouted the boy and jumped on his favorite closet. There was nothing wrong with Eleanor, but such behavior was undignified. It was Eleanor who cured you. Stop being stubborn and come down. Now, Rosalyn said angrily. The boy got down from the closet, though reluctantly, which surprised Miss Eleanor. "Have you become friends?" asked Eleanor. "No, we are not friends." "Does he really need an examination so much? He's healthier than anyone else in this mansion." The boy agreed with Rosalyn's opinion and also added that all doctors are charlatans. "I don't know about the others, but I'm not a quack." "What's your name?" Miss Eleanor asked. "Fenrir is my name." Reluctantly the boy answered. "Rosalyn, you were the one who called him Fenrir?" "Fiddler. It was the name of a cat I had. There were no normal names." "Oh yes, I wondered if there were any suitable places that could take this boy." "Morian's, of course, is full, but there are still places available. You just have to tell them and they'll make all the arrangements," said Miss Eleanor. "I'm so used to having the Fenrir around all the time that I forgot. I told you from the beginning I wasn't going to leave Fenrir on the estate, and Eleanor promised to find a home for him." "No, for his own sake. We've got to send him somewhere where he'll be better off. He can't be protected all the time, he needs to be on his own, he can be stronger there." Rosalyn thought about it and said, "Tell Morin that I will give him as much money as he needs." "Then you should have said that I would bring other slaves to him as well. Even if you had to spend your entire fortune. By the way, the social filer is pretty good. No problems on the outside, he seems to be eating well and all his organs are fine." "Good, he hurt me a lot. Now he'll be able to leave in peace." The boy sitting on the bed and almost crying said, "I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be treated or saved. I never said I wanted to go to some orphanage, and I never said I wanted to come here. I don't want anything at all. So don't kid yourself like it's all about me. That crazy woman who brought me here, you think only of yourself." With these words the boy ran out the window and ran into the garden. Miss Eleanor was worried that he would have to be looked for, but Mrs. Rosalyn reassured her and said that the boy would come back on his own. The Duchess then gave the carriage to Miss Eleanor and said goodbye to her. Going to her room, she lay down on her bed and began to think of Fenrir. "It's too quiet here without him." Some time later, Rosalyn went looking for the boy in the garden. "Are you running away on purpose so that I have to look for you every time? I also gathered myself so high. Why don't you answer? I hid so you wouldn't look for me. So leave me alone and go away. If you didn't want me to find you, you should have run farther beyond the confines of the place. If that's how you wanted me to get out of here, you shouldn't have rescued me." Offended, replied the boy. "Is he trying to show he's not a child? How old are you?" "About 22, if you think about it. About 15 years ago there was a guy who was the same height as me. He said he was 7 years old, so I was about the same age. Fenrir, didn't you ever want to live together with people like you? That place Eleanor was talking about has a lot of former prisoners. You'll be better off. And then what? What happens to me? If you're lucky, you get citizenship. Or go wherever you want. Something like that. I got caught on the other side of the mainland. I escaped 3 times and got caught on the 4th. Citizenship makes no sense. I can get caught in the capital and sold in the provinces, so there are no good places for me. Any place is not safe for me. Safety is fleeting, and that's even worse for me. Do you want to stay here?" asked the Duchess with the hope that he would answer positively. "I don't know. I don't really want to stay anywhere. I just don't want to be tossed around like a sack. I'm going to get out of here. I felt like I didn't belong here anyway. Besides, my opinion didn't matter. At least this time I'm not being sold anywhere. What is it? Rosalyn has nothing to do with Fenrir, on the contrary, he reads her as his savior. And in spite of this, Rosalyn cannot shake off a nagging feeling. She has often felt this way before. It's called responsibility. If you want to stay, you can stay. But on the condition that you obey me. If I wanted to, I could drop you in the capital right now. If I wanted to keep you a slave, I wouldn't make conditions, I'd shackle you. Everyone in this manor is subject to me, but they are not my slaves. They are my employees or servants. They know, I don't think it makes any difference. Fenrir replied with a smirk. A slave can't choose his master, but a servant can. You wanted to be able to choose. It's up to you now. But the boy, kept as a slave for a long time, didn't understand how he was given a choice. Why? Why do you give me the right to choose? Reluctantly the boy asked. Because you came to my house, and I am the Duchess of Apelden. If I picked up a stray cat in the street, I'm not going to throw it under the wheels of a carriage. Although if it escapes, there's nothing I can do about it. And also, you'll have to sit at the table during the meal. Now no one will run after you and spoon-feed you. Having said this, the Duchess went to her castle. The next morning when Rosalyn was eating breakfast, one of the maids asked her, "Do you think he'll come back?" "I don't know, it depends on him." And that's when the window opens and Fenrir jumps out. He's back at the estate. The next day, he said he would stay here, and I told him my full name. Rosalyn Idris Apelden. Other people call you Your Highness. I thought that was your name. You can call me that if you like. But I don't think that's going to happen. One day after another walk, the Duchess returned. "Mistress, where is Fenrir?" asked the maid picking up the cane from the Duchess. "He is reading a book in his room." He seemed to enjoy reading very much. There was something noble and lofty about him that did not fit the image of a child. Sometimes I sensed a kind of nobility in him that I couldn't describe in words. And every so often those moments, I remembered the cat basking in front of the fireplace on a cold winter evening. For some reason, however, I couldn't say it out loud. After Venus decided to stay at the mansion, he had never once expressed displeasure with his new life. Though once we were late with him when our opinions differed. You said you didn't care. I said I wouldn't pick on the quality. But these are shorts. You think I'm a little boy? That's what 7-year-olds wear. But despite all the recriminations, he still wore the shorts. What's the big deal? It suits you very well. Besides, not only 7-year-olds wear them, but 10-year-olds as well. Rosalyn said mockingly, "Are you even listening to me? I told you I'm not a child." Fenrir said indignantly, "I didn't bring the clothes, the butler did. If you don't like something, you can leave a note for him." Suddenly, the boy swooped down on the Duchess and took her by the neck. "Don't treat me like a child. I warn you, if you look down on me, because I have short arms and legs." But it wasn't that simple. The Duchess knew how to use martial arts and immediately put him on the floor. "It's not because of your arms or legs, it's just that you don't understand what you possess. And it's not you that's doing the warning, it's me. You think because I have so much, my life is like a fairy tale? That's a shame." Getting up from him, the Duchess called to the maid and told her to make new clothes for Fenrir. Also, burn these dirty clothes. After that, Fenrir never attacked Rosalyn again. Be that as it may, Rosalyn had a headache about the problem of raising finger. At first she was going to hire a professional teacher, but her high position prevented her from doing so. Rosalyn Idris Apelden used to be a princess and is now a duchess. Her surroundings were all aristocrats. And all the teachers she knew were also from noble families. Despite the Duchess' orders, they were aristocrats from birth after all. There was no way they would have borne such humiliation to bring up a prisoner. So she had to teach and educate him alone. And why study it at all? Fenrir asked grudgingly. If you can learn to tell him off, you can't be tricked into signing slavery papers. I'd rather teach it myself than make a mess of things around me. Writing, arithmetic, etiquette, and rules of conduct that he will need in ordinary life. It won't be easy to teach all that alone, but Fenrir has unusual abilities. He learned the alphabet in 30 minutes and learned to read in half a day. To teach such a student who grasps everything quickly. It was a pleasure. Once when Fenrir was strolling through the castle, Duchess Rosalyn's nephew wanted Fenrir to fall. But he was a paved boy and quickly jumped over the obstacle. A maid immediately ran up to him and asked if he was all right. She wanted to make the culprit apologize, but Fenrir would not listen to this and went on without paying any attention to them. When he had gone some distance, he heard what the maid said. If he wanted to make fun of him, he should have done it properly. Can't you do that too? I didn't know he was coming back. How many times have I told you that prisoners' senses are heightened? Anyway, it just pisses me off that we have to put up with him any longer. Why is the Duchess so good to this slave, too? That kid doesn't even know his place. Prisoners are usually like that. The maid and nephew whispered among themselves. It is ridiculous to see him making himself out to be some important man. It was very unpleasant to hear such words. How long do I have to stay here? Fenrir asked Rosalyn, sitting at the window. You are not going to keep me here all my life, are you? You can leave when you want to. It's definitely going to happen. I can assure you, nothing lasts forever. You still don't like me sometimes. The Duchess answered him. But the boy's answer stunned her more. I have never disliked you. Rosalyn had read that Fenrir had become much more obedient than before because she had tamed him. Or perhaps it was because Fenrir had decided not to resist her anymore. She wondered why he stayed in the castle after all. And the reason could have been asked in person, but for laziness she did not. Because she could not guess the answer. An unexpected answer might take her by surprise. She herself did not know which of the two reasons was closer to the truth. One day Rosalyn asked Fiddler to bring her books from the library, to which the boy agreed without any reproach. As he was carrying the books down the corridor one knight turned his attention to him and looked at the boy with disdain. What else is this? The knight asked. What is a slave doing in the corridor? This boy is not a slave. One of the guards answered him. If not a slave, then who is he? A spare, just in case? The knight asked the guard grudgingly. The guard replied that he was a child who was being raised by Her Highness. Doesn't she have enough government business to raise pets now, too? Again Fenrir felt a frank contempt for him. The knight could not perceive him as a man, so in anger he scattered the books Fenrir held, and then hit him in the face with his cane. So hard that he even bled. But Fenrir did not want to let himself be hurt and struck his opponent in the beard. Then he immediately ran to Rosalyn. When he ran into her room, he climbed up on the table and told her to go with him. Hey, I told you not to climb on the table. And where are the books you were supposed to bring? Rosalyn asked indignantly. But the boy wasn't paying attention to her questions. He was puzzled by the fact that some man had hit him. At that moment a guard came into her room, followed by the man who had hit Fenrir. It turned out that the man was the husband of the Duchess as well. As she approached him she slapped him in anger and punched him in the stomach. She snatched the sword from the guard and put it to her husband's neck. Insulting the imperial family is punishable by death, said the Duchess. In his defense, her husband said, I am still your husband and His Majesty knows that I am here. There's no way I'm going to put my own stamp on all divorce papers. I'm still a member of the imperial family. But the Duchess did not care for his words. She said that the day she sent the divorce papers, her relationship with him was over. She was so angry with him that she wanted to cut off his head. Mocking her husband, she said, I will tell His Majesty that you love me so much that you signed the divorce papers and died of grief. Even if you threaten me, you're still not divorced. Even when you had men on the side, I put up with it all. I told you, it doesn't matter how many men there are in the future. Now just stop. Rosalyn threatened him with a sword and told him to shut his mouth. She demanded a divorce because she thought he was too dumb. And he was even worse in bed. I warn you, one more touch of people in my house. I'll cut your dick off and bury it in pig waste.